Hey there, and welcome to our explainer. We usually think our beliefs are in the driver's seat, that what we think, what we value, is what dictates what we do. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the tables are turned? What if the things we do can actually reach back and change what we believe? Let's dive into this really fascinating psychological puzzle.
Okay, so let me ask you something. Have you ever had someone ask you for a really small favor? Something almost trivial, like giving directions or answering one quick question. Super easy to say yes, right? No big deal.
But then, maybe a little later, that same person comes back, and this time the request is a lot bigger. And for some reason, even though your gut might be screaming no, you find it weirdly hard to refuse. So what's going on there? Let's break it down.
All right, let's jump right in. We're going to look at a classic scenario to see how one tiny little yes can set off a pretty powerful chain reaction in our minds.
Just picture it. You're walking across campus, maybe between classes, just minding your own business. And a student with a clipboard comes up to you. They're friendly, and they're not asking for much, just 3 minutes. That's it. Seems totally reasonable.
So of course, you say yes. I mean, why not, right? It's hardly an inconvenience. Plus, you get that little feel-good moment for helping someone out. You answer a few questions, you go on your way, and you probably forget about it. But here's the thing. Psychologically, something big just got started.
So how in the world does that one simple yes turn into something bigger? Well, that small act did more than just take up 180 seconds of your day. It actually started to quietly reshape how you see yourself.
Well, believe it or not, this has a name. It's called the foot in the door technique, and it's a classic strategy for getting people to comply. The idea is simple. If you can get someone to open the door just a crack for a small request, you've made it way easier to swing that door wide open for a bigger request later on.
So let's just walk through how this plays out. It starts with that tiny request, which you agree to. Then, later, comes the bigger ask. And that last part, that's the absolute key. It's all about our deep, deep need to be consistent. Because you said yes before, saying no now, it just feels, well, inconsistent. It feels wrong.
And this right here is the absolute heart of it. See, your brain doesn't just log, completed a survey. No, it starts telling a story about you. And that story sounds something like, I'm the kind of person who helps out other students. I guess I'm a helpful person. Your action just laid a new brick in the foundation of your identity.
Okay, but why? Why do we have this almost automatic need to stay consistent? To answer that, we have to look at how our minds are constantly trying to keep things, well, balanced, and to avoid a certain kind of mental static.
That feeling has a name, and it's a big one in psychology: cognitive dissonance. It's basically like a little alarm bell going off in your head when something doesn't add up, when your actions and your beliefs are out of sync. It's a genuinely uncomfortable feeling, and we are really, really motivated to make it stop.
So here's where the conflict really sparks up. On one hand, you have your behavior. I just stopped and spent my free time on this survey. But on the other hand, you might have a long-standing attitude. I'm a busy person and I don't really do these things. And when those two things don't match, bam, that's dissonance. That's the tension.
So what do you do with that uncomfortable feeling? Well, you can't go back in time and not do the survey. The action is done. It's a sunk cost. So the easiest thing to change, the path of least resistance, is your attitude. Your brain starts to gently nudge your beliefs to line up with what you've already done. And this brings us to another really cool idea, which is self-perception theory. This basically says that sometimes we figure out what we believe in the same way someone else would, by watching our own actions. It's like we're detectives, but the case we're solving is ourselves. So, that little voice in your head starts to put the pieces together, and it sounds something like this. Well, I took that survey, so I must be the kind of person who thinks surveys are worthwhile. Otherwise, why would I have done it? We literally convince ourselves that our actions reflect our true feelings. Okay, this is where it gets really, really interesting. Because what happens when you throw rewards, or maybe more importantly, a lack of rewards, into the mix? Because when we can't find a good external reason for doing something, our brain's internal justification machine kicks into overdrive. This is a concept called insufficient justification. Think about it. If someone offered you, say, $100 to take that survey, your justification is simple, right? I did it for the cash. Easy. But what if you did it for free? Now your brain has a problem to solve. Why did I do that for nothing? And this is the real fork in the road. When you have a big external justification, like a reward,
your attitude can stay exactly the same. But when you have low or no external justification, your brain has to get creative and invent an internal reason. That's when you start telling yourself, you know what, I must have done it because I actually enjoy helping out, or I believe in this cause.
So when you boil it all down, it comes back to this one fundamental human drive. We need to see ourselves as consistent, rational people. So we literally talk ourselves into believing that our actions are a perfect reflection of who we are deep down. Basically, our actions become the evidence we use to prove to ourselves who we are.
Okay, so we've gone through a lot of psychology here. What does this actually mean for you, for me, for everyday life? Well, understanding this link between doing and believing is more than just a cool fact. It has some pretty huge, real-world implications.
So, let's just nail down the key takeaways. Of course, our attitudes affect our behavior, but it is absolutely a two-way street. Our actions have a powerful pull on our attitudes, mostly because we just can't stand being inconsistent. And the crazy part? It all kicks off with those tiny, little commitments that seem like no big deal at the time.
And this leaves us with a really powerful and maybe even empowering final thought. If our actions can actually shape who we believe we are, that's incredible. It means that if you want to change, maybe the first step isn't just trying to think differently. Maybe it's about doing something differently. So, here's a question to chew on. What's one small action you could take today to start becoming the person you want to be tomorrow?